Good evening. Welcome to the December 5th, 2023 City Council meeting. The meeting is hereby called to order. Members of the public may attend the City Council meeting in person or may watch and listen remotely by viewing the meeting on Channel 8 WCTV and the city's website at www.wayzata.org/WCTV. Public comment during the public forum and/or public hearing portions of the meeting may be provided in person at the meeting, in advance, or by logging into the Zoom call and raising your hand during the public hearing. When your name is called in the meeting, you will be seen and heard in our council chambers and the cable channel. You will be asked to unmute, and then you may begin your comment. All public comments must include your full name and address. Second item on the agenda this evening is the Pledge of Allegiance. I would ask everyone to please stand if able and follow along. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Wonderful. Thank you very much. Next item is the roll call. Please let the record reflect that all members of the council are present. I'd also like to note that the council participated in a workshop this evening where we reviewed and discussed an update on the status and discussion of municipal cannabis enterprise feasibility study framework. Next up on the agenda this evening is to approve the agenda. May I have a motion to approve the agenda as presented, or would anyone care to make any changes?
I'll make that motion, Mayor.
To approve the agenda as is?
Yes.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion passes. We are now on to the public forum. Just as a reminder for those members of the public in attendance this evening, if you are interested in speaking, we ask that you please state your name, address, indicate if you are representing a group, and we ask that you limit your comments to 3 minutes. If the item you wish to speak about is something that is on the agenda, for those that are in person, please fill out a room that you can find at the back of the room on the table and hand it to staff. For those that are watching via Zoom, please send a note via chat to staff and let them know what agenda item you wish to speak about. We will also require that your camera is turned on when you speak. We have a few items this evening so far on the public agenda or public forum. The first item is the swearing in of firefighters Mason Myers and Connor Stepka, City Manager.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I believe Chief Clapprich is going to come up and say a few words about our newest firefighters, and then I will head over to the podium and swear them in.
Very good. Thank you. Good evening, Chief.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and members of the council. Thank you for allowing us to be here. This is something that we do once we hire them. Usually a year later, they come off of their probationary period, and then we dress them up and bring them over here and swear them in. Tonight we're going to do, these two guys have been, let's see, Mason's been here a little over a year, and Connor is just about a year. But if Connor and Mason, you guys want to come up here? I'll tell you a little bit about these two guys. The one closest to me is Mason, and we'll be switching. And I will tell you a little bit about him. Mason is a Minnetonka resident of 5 years and shares his life with his wife, Sunny, and their delightful 4-year-old daughter, Eden. Growing up in Shakopee, Minnesota, Mason was raised by his parents, Laurel and Rick Myers. With a solid background in building maintenance spanning over 10 years, Mason has recently transitioned into the fire industry, currently serving as the SCBA, self-contained breathing apparatus technician at Clary Safety. It's really nice to have the guy that can fix them right in the building. He brings his expertise to the forefront. Beyond his professional pursuits, Mason cherishes moments with his family, prioritizing quality time. His passion for rock climbing, participation in triathlons, and love for outdoors reflect his active and adventurous lifestyle. Mason has integrated into a vibrant Wayzata community, finding joy in both its events and volunteering opportunities. Whether lending a helping hand or attending community gatherings, he values the sense of belonging fostered by Wayzata's warm and welcoming atmosphere. Connor.
I heard a deep breath there.
Connor's a one of a kind. Connor was born and raised in New Prague. He moved up to Wayzata last September with his wonderful fiancee, Casey. Connor is currently attending Hennepin Tech, working on his fire science degree. He is also a member of the Excelsior Fire Department. We're not really sure we even know where that is, but they say it's across the lake. As well as he's an EMT at North Memorial Ambulance. Connor obtained his EMT at Anoka Tech last December. During Connor's free time, he enjoys spending time with Casey and family down in New Prague. He enjoys doing outdoor activities when the weather is warm. He also enjoys getting to know more of the area and how great it is to be up here. Connor is happy to be here in the area, and it is an honor being a member of the Wayzata Fire Department and working alongside the other dedicated Wayzata firefighters. I will tell you that Connor, when Connor arrived, he had already gone to, he had his firefighter 1 and 2, and he was in the process of getting his EMR certifications. He's since got his EMR certifications and has gone one step up to EMT. Mason, in his time here, he has completed his firefighter 1, 2 hazmat EMR, and he is actually in the process of going after the EMT registration right now. So they've had a busy year, but they've done quite a nice job. So at this point, I guess I will ask Jeff to come and swear him in, and then we'll call up, we'll let, I think Sonny and Casey are gonna do the pinning, so.
Wonderful. All right, City Manager Jeff Dull. We'll have to try and get the microphone between the two of you
Yes.
so everyone can hear.
Madam Mayor, we'll start with Mason first. I just got to say, it sounds like based on the resumes, you guys were trying to one-up each other. Pretty impressive, I have to say. But can you hear it okay?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Thank you.
It's my privilege to issue both of you the oath of office. Listening to your revenue, or your, not revenue, you know, tell what we were talking about earlier.
We talk a lot about revenue in here.
Always thinking about money. Your resumes and knowing just your commitment to this community and serving them is really impressive, and I'm just thrilled that you're part of the team, and I look forward to the future. So, with that, here's Mason's. Mason, if you raise your right hand and please repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Mason Myers,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
to support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Minnesota,
and the Constitution of the State of Minnesota,
and that I will discharge faithfully
and I will discharge faithfully
the duties of the Office of Firefighter
the duties of Office of Firefighter
in the City of Wayzata,
in the City of Wayzata,
County of Hennepin,
County of Hennepin,
in the State of Minnesota,
State of Minnesota,
to the best of my judgment and ability.
to the best of my judgment and ability.
Congratulations. And then on to Connor. Connor, if you want to raise your right hand and please repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Connor Stapcup,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Minnesota,
and the Constitution of the State of Minnesota,
and that I will discharge faithfully
and I will discharge faithfully
the duties of the office of firefighter
the duties of the office of firefighter
in the city of Wayzata,
in the city of Wayzata,
county of Hennepin,
county of Hennepin,
the state of Minnesota,
the state of Minnesota,
to the best of my judgment and ability.
to the best of my judgment and ability.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, I think probably the badge pinning or
We'll do the
Uh,
badge pinning and then some pictures.
pictures, and then maybe a few words from the council too after
Absolutely.
that. Great.
Sonny and Casey, you want to come up?
This is always the trickiest part.
If you do hit them, we got plenty of help here.
Perfect. All right. Well, before you sit down, sorry, Chief, did you have,
I was just going to say, I told them that you'd probably give them a chance to talk. They did have to keep their talk under 35 minutes, though.
oh, perfect.
So,
I was thinking more 40 or 45, but if either of you would like to come forward?
I don't have anything planned, but I just want to say thank you. Thank you to the council members and the mayor and Chief Clapperich for the opportunity to serve Wayzata. I'd also like to thank my fellow firefighters for welcoming me into their brotherhood and their mentorship this past year. I've learned a lot of things about a lot of things. And then my family, I just want to thank them for their support. There's been a lot of things going on this year, and when I got to leave the house because there's a storm going on, they have to button down the hatches at the house. So that takes a toll, you know. But I just want to say thank you, and yeah.
Thank you very much.
I'll make this brief. Thank you, council and mayor. Thank you, chief. Thank you, fellow firefighters, for being here. Thank you, family, so much for the support and love. And special thank you for my love here, Casey, for all her support and love and all she's gone through to help me. All those early morning calls, you know. But it's a pleasure being here. I love being here, and I totally see myself being here for many years. Again, thank you all.
Excellent. Any questions from the council? No? You know, it's my honor and privilege, and I'll speak on behalf of the entire council and the rest of staff. Welcome. You've been here and with us for over a year now. You're fully indoctrinated and educated and off to the races. We are so very proud to have you as part of our community, our family, and to your families and your significant others. You know, thank you. What you do to help support your firefighters means a great deal, not just to us, but to our community, because without your support, they wouldn't be able to leave the house and do their job. And so, you know, our thanks goes out to you as well. So we wish you a very, very long, happy, and safe career here with us as firefighters. You know, knock them dead. Thank you. Well,
Thank you.
we don't actually knock anybody dead, just for the record. Yes, but you know that because you've had amazing training on the department, so, yes.
Thank you, and have a good rest of the night.
Thank you very much, Chief. All right. Why don't we take, before you leave, why don't we take just a couple of minutes? That'll give families the opportunity to maybe take some pictures with all of you. So we'll take a 5-minute recess. Okay, we are back in session, and we are still in the public forum. Our next item this evening is a presentation of Exceptional Service Award to Molly McDonald, owner of Highcroft Fine Linens and Home, by the Greater Wayzata Area Chamber of Commerce. Ms. McDonald is also our esteemed colleague and council member. So she will join Becky Pearson from the chamber up at the podium, because she's accepting this award as a business owner and not as a council member this evening.
Well, look at you.
All
Just
right,
repositioned
city manager.
yourself, didn't you? Well, thank you, Madam Mayor, council members, staff. It's great to be here. What a special night and heartfelt with the recognition of the swearing in of the officers. I was so happy to be here. And now to be able to recognize another of your own. So thank you so much for maybe being a part of it and giving us this opportunity to recognize Molly. I am here on behalf of the Chamber and Business and Estate Advisors, who is also another great business here in town. And together for 20 years now, we have been recognizing our Chamber business members that have provided exceptional service. The process, for just a reminder for those of you that are familiar with it or those that might be not as familiar, we have, this is a nomination and selection process, and then we then give recognition for our great businesses 2 to 3 times a year. Nominations can be given by anybody. It's open to public, customers, chamber members, residents, anybody that has received any kind of fantastic experience and customer service from one of our business chamber members. You do need to be a chamber member to receive it, but it's open to anybody. It's a great little system. You can go onto our website and do a nomination. We encourage any and all people to do that, to recognize great businesses. And it doesn't need to be any specific type of business. So all business sectors are able to receive it, and we have definitely a broad number of different kinds of businesses that have received these awards over the years. So tonight, we are recognizing one of our great retail businesses in town, Highcroft Fine Linens and Gifts. And they are located on Lake Street. It's a beautiful shop. I'm sure all of you are familiar with it. But so we are recognizing Molly. Molly has been with Highcroft and owner and operator of that for almost 10 years, and has been in the fine linen industry selling that for over 10 years. So she has been a part of this community, grew up in this community, so she is really, as I said, part of us, and really appreciate all that she has done. I'm just going to give just a little bit of a glimpse of the nomination, just to give you just an indication of what she received as a nomination. The store, Molly McDonald and her team were wonderful and helping at holiday gifts. The store has so many unique gift items, and my family was thrilled with what I purchased for them. You rarely experience the level of customer service anymore, and I thoroughly appreciated it. So that was just a little glimpse into what Molly has been doing for so many years, and we really appreciate that. And I would say that it's customer service and experience like that Molly is leading our businesses that really makes a difference to individual businesses as well as our community. It's that differentiation that brings people into the community, into Wayzata, and into our business owners, their shops. So it is really makes a difference, and it sets us apart from others, and so important to have that sense of customer service that we have to make a thriving business community. So we're very grateful for that. And I also want to make a note that Molly has, in addition to her chamber membership and being a fantastic business in town, she really steps further in engaging with the chamber and has volunteered her time to be a part of a retail group that we have been doing for a number of years. We come together as needed to try to build connections within the different businesses, and if there are issues, not that there are ever issues in town, but when we have some of those challenges with construction and things, she has been a part of that team that has thought about what we can do and ideas just to continue to support businesses through it. So I appreciate that she is on that, and I value her opinion as well. So you're here now. Would love to just want to give you the recognition. So we've got this, that we have the congratulations to you. We are also, you can, in this next week, I think we are going to also, there will be an article in the Sun and Sailor recognizing Molly. Oh, pardon us. Oh, okay. Don't admit it. Okay, great. Sounds good. I just didn't want to miss an opportunity. Okay, that's all right. So congratulations, Molly. Happy to have you say a few comments, and Madam Mayor or council members, since she is, as I said, one of yours and sits up at the dais. It's really kind of a special night. So, Molly, would you like to?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, Becky and the chamber. I was just so touched to receive this award. I was really excited and really fun to be honored in front of all of you guys who are such an important part of my other part of my life. So worlds colliding tonight, which always is kind of fun and exciting. But my staff is amazing, and I am very proud of them and the service that they offer at Highcroft. And anyone who knows me knows I've worked at a lot of retail stores since I grew up here in Wayzata. So many people I've learned how to offer great service from that I'm grateful for. Everyone from, working at Wayzata Rexall in high school, really, the McQuethies at Sun and Ski, Judd Frost, all those. So I'm really grateful to have learned with such seasoned, awesome retailers that Wayzata has. And so thanks so much for the recognition. It feels really good. So.
Well, little known fact, I was very surprised, was that now 3 years ago, 4 years ago, when you first joined the council, or you applied to be considered to film, I think it was 3 years ago now. And because I had known Molly, have known Molly for over 20 years, when you were an associate at a store that I love to go shopping in, and we just kind of hit it off from day one. And I wouldn't see Molly very often, but every time I saw her, she just was cheerful and upbeat and offered phenomenal service. Always understood my taste. We could talk about different things. And now the store, Highcroft Fine Linens and Gifts, absolutely delightful. Your staff is amazing. And so definitely a great place to do some holiday shopping or shopping year-round. So congratulations, Molly, to you and your staff for all your hard work. Your exceptional commitment to this community is unparalleled. So we wish you the very best. Shop there and at all fine retailers throughout Wayzata, throughout the holiday season and the entire year. So thank you to the Chamber also for putting this together. It's wonderful to be able to celebrate our own.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Oh, this time now.
Oh, sorry, yes.
Sorry.
Okay.
All right. Oh, pardon me. City Manager, we are still in the public forum. Do we have any other comments online, or have we received any cards?
Madam Mayor, we do not, but we do have one other item that I think would be appropriate for public forum to recognize an outgoing planning commissioner. You see on the consent agenda, which typically we don't discuss or pull consent agenda items, but we have an acceptance of a resignation to the Planning Commission, and that's for Laura Merriam. Commissioner Merriam has served the city on the Planning Commission in 2 different time periods for 5 years each, so she's served the city for approximately 10 years. In each of those times, there's been a lot of stuff that's gone through the Planning Commission. We're talking about big plans like the comp plan, the design guidelines, the corridor study, and obviously all the development applications. And as the council knows, going through those development process, you can never approve or never please everybody, and they can get contentious at times. But observing it myself, talking to staff, Laura, she's probably the most articulate and thoughtful and puts so much work into her duty in the review process that I've ever seen. And What's great about Laura is that she is not afraid to provide her own opinion, whether that's with the majority or not. And that ultimately helps the planning commission and then through the council makes the best decision with all those perspectives at hand. So I think it'd be appropriate if you're okay, Madam Mayor, to have Laura come on up and we have a memento there for her to recognize her.
Oh, fantastic.
Miss Miriam, do you mind coming up? Yes.
Hi, Laura. Well, Laura, on behalf of the entire city of Wayzata and the community, we want to thank you for your many years of service. As Jeff mentioned, you have put so much time and so much work into it. You were always well prepared, very articulate, and you stood by your principles. And we couldn't ask for a more committed civil servant than yourself. So we are sad to see you go. We know you have amazing things ahead of you in some warm locales, so we will be very jealous. But again, thank you very much. You're always welcome back to the Planning Commission anytime, so please give it some thought. But on behalf of the city of Wayzata and the entire council, congratulations. Would you like to say a few words? Yeah, please.
What's
Okay.
that? Yeah, after your speech, after your long speech.
Well, I really didn't prepare anything, which I think is pretty typical. I'm better at asking questions than doing the discussions, but thank you so much for your really nice, thoughtful comments, and I really appreciate it. Actually, I was on for 7 years the first time around, so 12 years total. And I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to still be in Wayzata. My husband and I have been here for 33 years, and we don't have any intention of going anywhere. It's just, in the wintertime, it gets a little chilly. So I just felt it really difficult to get here during those months. And I wish I could still serve. And I'm not going away. So anyway, thank you very much. It's really been a pleasure working with all of you and with the planning commissioners and all the other staff, and just thank you. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
And Laura, Mayor, may I say a quick word? Absolutely. Laura, it's such a pleasure to be able to call you my friend. Having served with you on the Planning Commission, you're going to be really missed. You're smart, you're detailed, and what everyone has said, you've never been afraid to ask the tough questions. No one can replace you, no one, and you're going to be really, really missed. And thank you for all the years of your service. I'm still going to take you up on a bike ride, though. So it'll be warm then.
Yes, Councilmember Parkhill.
Well, you kind of stole my little speech there. But you said it better than I could anyway. So anyway, I just wanted to acknowledge that, Laura, that it was an absolute pleasure to work with you on Planning Commission. And I always considered you somebody that I would lean on for sound advice and to really think through a problem. And I'm grateful for that. And I would also like to say that I saw you as my advisor and I saw you as my friend. And it was just a pleasure to work with you. Good luck. We'll see you around.
All right. Thank you. All right. I think we
Good to go.
we're good to go. All right. Fantastic. So we will move on to our next agenda item, which is new agenda items. Council, do any of you have any new agenda items you'd like to bring up for consideration at a future meeting? No? No. All right. Then we will move on to the consent agenda. And this evening, we have a few items. We have the approval of the City Council workshop and regular meeting minutes of November 14, 2023, approval of check register, approval of municipal licenses, acceptance of the Planning Commissioner Laura Miriam's resignation, Approval of second reading and adoption of ordinance 833, allowing railroad crossing improvements adjacent to Burlington Northern Santa Fe Railroad Corridor along Wayzata Bay of Lake Minnetonka. And lastly, we have approval of professional services agreement with Delaney Consulting for Wayzata Bar and Grill and Wayzata Wine and Spirits work plan implementation. Members of the council, do any of you have any questions about those items or wish to pull an item for further discussion? No. All right. Then I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
So moved, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. And a second?
Second.
Motion's been first and seconded. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? That motion passes. Thank you. So next we will move on to the public hearing. Item 8A is to consider adoption of Resolution 65-2023, certifying to the county auditor the final property tax levy for taxes payable 2024, and adoption of Resolution 66-2023, approving the final 2024 budgets. City Manager.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Deputy City Manager Yeager is going to lead this presentation.
Well, thank you, Madam Mayor and council members. So tonight I get the privilege of presenting the final property tax levy at the 2024 budget. As many of you know, by the time we get to this meeting, it actually represents months and months of work, starting all the way back in June, where we look at our capital plans, talk about staffing, long-term financial planning. Then in September, we set our preliminary budget and then refine the budget between then and now in December, where we look to set the final property tax levy and the final budgets. This year, our total consolidated budget is around, as I click through here, $21.3 million, and that's comprised of many different funds. But notably, some of the biggest ones are our general fund at about 40% of that total budget, and our liquor enterprises, which represent almost 39%. In terms of revenues, across all of those funds, the biggest source of revenue, about 44%, is charges for services. So things like when you dine out at the bar and grill or buy something from Wine and Spirits, or a developer pays planning charges to the city, things like that. But the second biggest revenue source at 27% is property taxes. Followed then by our utility charges. So again, you can kind of see like when across everything that we do as a city, kind of where money comes in and then where it gets spent. But diving more in depth into our general fund, this is the fund that supports what I would call core government services. When you think of things that the city provides, police services, fire, parks, administration, things like that, that all comes from the general fund. And for 2024, we're looking at a budget of about $8.6 million. And one of the reasons why we spend, I would say, have the most critical eye on this budget is because it is primarily funded by property taxes. You can see that 69% of the revenue for next year is coming from property taxes. So that's, again, like it funds those core government services. On the expenditure side, we're looking at a balanced budget, so again, about $8.6 million. And you can see from this chart here kind of where is that money spent. And 35% would go towards police services, 23% to administration, 13% to parks, followed by 12% in public works, and then smaller from there on. So again, those kind of core government services. And throughout the budget process, there have really been a lot of discussion on multiple areas, but three in particular that I think represent some of the prioritized funding for the 2024 budget. The first is, and this has held true for many years, is to maintain the current level of services. As you know from our community survey, we've got very high ratings from our community, so we don't want to do anything that's going to mess that up. We want to maintain that same level of service. But something that's different that I'll touch on a little bit more later in the presentation is a focus on restoring our annual investments toward capital projects. And finally, to invest in new positions and compensation to retain and attract the best employees. But the main action item tonight is to approve that final levy. So you can see there that are in the 2024 final column, about $5.9 million is needed to fund just the general fund budget, about $500,000 in an infrastructure levy to pay for capital projects, leading to our total of about $6.4 million as a levy, which is about 8.98% higher than last year. So for those at home, you might be wondering, why did that levy increase? From this chart, you can see the historic 5-year history of levy increases in the city, starting smaller in 2020 and 2021, and have had a couple of larger years the last couple of years. And it's a variety of factors, but a couple that I think tie back to those budget goals we talked about earlier. The first, about 11% of that general levy increase is due to having additional services. So some of those things that we're looking to do next year that are new and above what we were doing this year is to expand our portal newsletter to all residents. We're not currently getting it to multifamily properties, so we're looking to make sure that they have access to that as well as investing in some critical software and technology across the city. Office 365, some recruitment software, and license plate reading cameras in the police department. About 6%, so a small percent of that increase is due to insurance. Based on our 2023 actuals, we had increases in both our general liability and workers' comp that we're keeping pace with, as well as we're expecting some increases to our general liability insurance, both for the expansion and having the Panaway Lake Walk, and also due to valuation increases. As every number of years, the league asks for updated valuation of our property, and that can affect our rates too. But far and away, the biggest reason why we have such a budget increase this year in the general fund is due to new positions and wage increases. So this year, we're looking to add 2 new positions. One would be an accountant, and the other would be an additional park maintenance worker. They're both planned to start in second quarter at the beginning, as well as to pay for cost of living increases and market adjustments, both for our union contracts and per our compensation study. 10% is also due to just increases in kind of baseline repair and maintenance and utility costs. We've seen this the last couple of years. Our buildings are older, our streets are older in some areas, and so just there's some more frequent, expensive repairs that we have to take care of that we're seeing come through in our budget, as well as we're still feeling the pinch in the utility line items as well, so trying to keep pace with those inflationary increases as well. About 16% is due to lost revenues, different from when we set our prelim budget to now. We took out the assumption that we were going to have an SRO contract with the school district, so that's about $84,000 of lost revenue, and a slight decrease in our interfund operating transfers from the Lakefront Fund to the general fund. But an important difference that I mentioned earlier is a commitment to reinvesting in our annual capital contributions out. So this chart represents what we've contributed from our general fund and from our infrastructure levy on an annual basis towards capital project funds. You can see in 22 and 23, those amounts decreased. And I think it's important to note that there's been discussion at the council about the benefit that this city has seen from having a council and community that really values saving for projects in advance instead of having to rely on debt to pay for them. So that means you feel the pinch year to year. You have to, be diligent in setting aside resources each year, but then it's way more cost effective. We don't have bond issuance costs and interest costs to the same extent that many other communities experience. So with the 2024 budget, it reflects about an $80,000 increase towards capital improvements. So that's a good change to see that we're making that commitment to say we've had this practice and we're trying to strive to keep that up. The other thing I'd note is just the economics of our community. Over the last several years, we've had consistent valuation growth from new construction. I mean, I think anybody who's seen this community knows that there's been a lot of redevelopment, a lot of new development, but in the last couple of years, we've seen a lot of market value growth from existing property, and that's just due to the demand and valuation of particularly the western suburbs, but especially lakefront properties in the western suburbs. Those are really in-demand properties, and that's exactly where Wayzata is. So we've seen a lot of value growth from that. And in terms of our total tax capacity, this just shows that in nearly every area, Wayzata's tax capacity is growing at a rate that's faster than suburban Hennepin County. And while tonight we're talking about city property taxes, I want to make sure that folks at home may understand that when they look at their total property tax statement, the city portion is just one part of that, and typically we represent about 19% of their total property tax bill. Historically, I would note that while we've had some larger levy increases in the last couple of years, we still have maintained a practice of pretty much being at or below our surrounding peers. So about an average of 6 or 7 communities around us, when we look at what are they seeing for budget increases, for property tax levy increases, we've been at or below them. So even when we set our preliminary levy at 9.98%, the average was a little over 11. From just anecdotally, what we're hearing from a lot of those same communities is it's not coming down very much. So us coming in with a final property tax levy increase of 8.98%, I think you're going to see is still below what many of our surrounding communities are seeing. And what that means is because we have had such high valuation growth, but our levy increases is below the rate that we're seeing in surrounding communities, that our tax rate is also falling lower and lower than our surrounding communities. So even despite having a levy increase proposed for 2024, we're actually going to see a property tax rate decrease from 19.5% to 18.8%. And the reason why it's important to keep track of both our levy increases and our tax rate is because that's really where people feel the pinch in terms of what do I get for my money. So if you compared the same value house in several different communities, this is using 2023 data, you can see that if you had a $400,000 house, you'd pay more in Shorewood or Plymouth for that house than you would in Wayzata because our tax rate is lower.
And that's just their city portion.
Correct,
That's
just
not
the city portion.
county or school district portions.
Correct, yep, just the city portion of taxes, yep. And so kind of along that same line, I think it's important as we set these budgets, as we set a property tax levy, to really consider what is the impact on our residents? Like, where are they going to feel it since they're the ones that ultimately pay it? And when we look at it in a couple of ways because it's really hard to say this is exactly how it's going to affect you because it really depends on each individual person's property and how their valuation may have changed year to year, if it went up or down and how much. But generally speaking, just for illustrative purposes, on average, values increased about 16%. So if you were a person in a median value home and your home went up 16% from last year to this year, you would pay about $270 more next year than you did this year, which is about a 14% increase. But if your property taxes stayed about the same, you would see a $77 decrease. Again, that's because the tax rate is going down. So again, it's a complicated formula. It depends on how your individual value may have changed to determine what your tax change might be. And I think that that's important to mention because as we know from doing our community survey, a couple of years ago, that 85% of our residents reported that they felt they had a good or excellent value in city services considering the property taxes that they pay. So I think that means that we've done a really good job of being thoughtful about what increases we're going to have for what things, that those are things that we think really will make a difference in our community, that they will affect the service that they're experiencing, it'll affect the parks that they visit, things like that. And so we really view this as a sign that we've been doing a good job of being mindful of those increases and that we're aligned with what the community wants, but also as a challenge to make sure that we uphold that. So with that, I'll leave it to the mayor to open the public hearing, and then after that, we have a couple of action items.
All right, very good, thank you. So I will go ahead and open the public hearing. Do we have anybody online who would like to speak at the public hearing?
Madam Mayor, we do not.
Okay, and seeing that we don't have anybody in chambers, I will go ahead, that wants to speak, I will go ahead and close the public hearing. And I will bring it back to council with questions of staff. No? Kathy?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Aurora. You always do such a good job. It's a long process. It is not just a 1 week, it is a months and months of work for you. So thank you for all your hard work and due diligence and the preparation of this. I just feel that I really just need to talk about what we're seeing as far as an increase in investment in employees. So when I look at the 41% increase, I want us as a city to be conscious moving forward that we don't continue to see this large of an increase. We have hired 8 employees since 2020. It is a large financial hit to the city. I know why we're doing it, because of the service levels and all the other things that you brought up. But at some point, I think we need to see it start to level off somewhat. And so I just want to make sure that we have this discussion now so that we prepare for that for next year as we go into this. And then I did ask Jeff if you were able to find a number of what the increase was last year. Were you able to find that data, guys?
I've got it. So the figure you're representing, too, I want to be clear because it's kind of a percentage of a percentage. So when we look at, okay, here's how much our general fund budget went up, and I look at what percent of that increase is due to a variety of factors. So 41% of that increase this year is due to investment in new positions and wage increases and things like that. So last year, considering there's some differences in factors last year, but last year it was 55%.
Okay.
So it's less than last year.
It is less, yeah. And then we did talk about you actually have that as far as on page 62 of the major drivers that contributed to that last year. So thank you for that. And to your point, you did talk about this in your presentation, that the 41% was new positions, a 3% COLA, market adjustment, as well as merit increases. And so we should see some of that level off next year. Is that correct?
Yeah, so I would say that that depends on what staff gets included next year, if any. So each year, we've done a long-term staffing plan, and typically, we've not approved everything that's been in that plan by each year for that same sensitivity of, we're really trying to balance needs of the organization versus how much can the community stomach and what's really our right size. So I know we have a couple of other positions still out there over the next couple of years to be considered or evaluated. But we haven't signed on the dotted line and said, yes, we're filling those positions. That absolutely would be up to future councils to discuss when we do that long-term staffing work in June.
Okay. But 2 of the things potentially that could go away are the market adjustments, because that was a study that we did
Right.
to make sure that we were compatible and competitive.
Yep.
Okay. And really just so that people, to clarify, I understand that it's really so that we are a competitive marketplace, that we value you guys as employees and we want to keep you. So I understand that. I just want to make sure that as we move forward, again, that we are just conscious of that number and do what we can. I have been contacted from residents regarding the increases that they've seen on their tax bills this year. My personal one went up not $200 and some, but well over $700. And I've gotten multiple phone calls from other people again about the impact that they're seeing and the potential impact that it has for them as residents to be able to stay in this community. So that is why I'm trying to be proactive in how we approach our taxes next year and our tax levy. I think we've talked about this as a council. We should do what we can do without impairing the services and the quality of employees that we have, but get down to something that was closer to the 5% and 6% that we had for many, many years and ran a very successful city. And so that is a goal or wish that I have. And so I will kind of be a master or a cheerleader for that as we move into 2024, so that we can do that to help keep as many residents in our community as we can. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Kathy. You mentioned in your presentation the 16% average. What is the Hennepin County Assessor's Office saying in terms of what they're seeing for next year? Because 2024 is done. That was done last spring. We had the appeals process here. So what people are getting in the mail is stuff that's been in motion and they've been receiving notices about for many months. And we don't control the assessed value on a home, right? We don't do the assessments and property values go up or down, and that's the county assessor's office. But what are they seeing now for payable 2025? Are they seeing some leveling off?
I would say some, but not flat by any means. I want to say closer to 10% is maybe kind of where they're starting to see things. So the rate of increase is coming down, but it's still
10%, but
Higher around the lake and a little bit lower in the neighborhoods.
correct.
But around.
a little flatter inland.
Yes.
But Lake Shore is still going up at a relatively significant pace.
Correct.
So people should be prepared for 10 to 15% Lake Shore and maybe a little bit flatter
Off the lake.
off the lake. Thank you. Inland really wasn't.
Yeah. Thanks.
So no, great comments, Councilmember Iverson. Other questions from the council?
No, I just wanted to thank Aurora and Jeff for, this is my first process, going through the budget process. And although I had some accounting background, the city funding is a little bit different, so I appreciate the hand-holding. And Aurora, I was always really impressed with how well you knew the numbers and how thoughtful you were about the numbers. And so I just wanted to compliment you on that.
Thank you.
It was a great process. It wasn't too overbearing. So thanks.
Thank you, Councilmember Parkhill. I think you mentioned we started in June, but in the book, in the full packet that's out on the website, we've actually been at this for 9 months. So as soon as we put this to bed, we have a short reprieve, and then we're right back at it for the following year.
Yep, Madam Mayor, I've already started working on the 2025 budget calendar, so
Oh
it
my.
never stops.
Oh, my goodness. Well, other Councilmember Plekish, did you have a question?
I really don't have any questions, and a lot of good points have already been made by Councilmember Iverson and Parkhill. But I would like to reiterate that too, is, we don't get here and go through a packet and suddenly we have to go through all the numbers. We've been through these numbers a lot over the past 6-9 months. So all the sharp pencils, the broken sharp pencils, the resharpened, sharpened pencils, we've done all that. I too would like to see the number lower, but I understand completely why it is where it is. And, but I suspect that some of what we were seeing this year and last year perhaps was kind of backfilling the vacuum that we kind of accumulated for a lot of years. I kind of feel like we've backfilled most of that. So looking forward, I don't expect we're going to have these kinds of numbers. But again, thank you for all the work that you've done.
Absolutely, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I just want to reiterate what my colleagues have already stated. And Ms. Yeager, you've done an exceptional job of guiding us through the process. Councilmember Parkhill, just when you think you got it all figured out, by the time we get back at it next year, we're going to, it takes years of figuring it out. So it is a process. It's a very long, arduous process. But you've done a stellar job. You've had to correct us as we have said one thing one meeting, then just shifted on you the next meeting, and then gone right back again the meeting after that. So thank you for being patient with us. I'm sure, many of those broken pencils were due to us and our fickleness. But it is understanding tax rates and the appraised values and the county portion versus the city and the school district is really important, and the process of the proposed levies as well. And I am sure that many people have opened up, the statements for the proposed taxes, and it is a very informative process. It's part of the process of adulting, I guess, at some point when you start opening up those pieces of mail and you start seeing them, and you got to figure out, what you're in for in the following year as a property owner. But I think we really need to also, as Councilmember Plekish stated, remember that we put a lot of things on hold over the years. We put hiring on hold. We've been short-staffed. Not only private sector, but public sector has changed considerably in terms of payroll and taxes and the laws that govern all of us as employers. We have to abide by those. And so the demands on our staff were increasingly untenable. And so some of these hiring decisions are to take some of that, some of that burden out amongst a couple different people. We also should never have our employees sitting under a waterfall at their desk because the rain is coming through. And as I'm sure anybody who's watching can attest to, everything has gotten more expensive. We don't get a discount, probably far from it. As a city, they probably, I don't know, charge a sticker price. But everything costs more. Health insurance for employees and, the new windows that we need to put in at City Hall. So all of those things have to get paid for. And while we do try to find opportunities to diversify revenue, which we talked about even earlier this evening in the workshop, the primary source, as you mentioned, was through property taxes. As part of that preliminary tax form, there was a supplemental budget information sheet that was included in Hennepin County. And it lists all the cities with their proposed, much like ours was 9.98, was it 9.98? Yes. 9.98, and now we're down to 8.98. Other communities may change as well. They won't go above these numbers. But all of the other communities on the lake, just worth noting, they're all in the double digits, except for Shorewood, who is just slightly below ours at 9.28%. But everybody else, Spring Park is at 7.7%, Tonka Bay at 12.6%, Woodland at 15%, Deep Haven at 17%, Excelsior at 12.9%, Minnetonka Beach at 19.67%. So those are impactful, and I just want to also, besides staff, commend my colleagues on the council. It is hard work. It's not fun work, right? It's like balancing your checkbook every month. You don't want to do it, but you do it, and it's the right thing to do, and it's our responsibility. But we're here, and I am very grateful, but also am looking forward to going back to kind of our pre-normalcy, right? When we were in the fives, and allowing, property values will continue to increase. I don't have a crystal ball, but just given our history here in town, I think it's fair to say we're not going to see significant dips, or definitely not for a long period of time. But we're well positioned, I think, based on the recommendations that staff has made and the thoughtful planning for many councils before us, and certainly this council here. We are in good financial positions. We don't assess, when we're repaving your street. That's what's included in this and all of these budgets. So you won't get a special assessment because we're going to repave, every X number of years. So, yeah, long story short, I'm glad it's over. I'm glad we're at the end of the year and we're at this point. But I also understand, and I hope the rest of the community understands, there's nobody in this room or at City Hall that takes this process lightly. And we certainly think about the impact it has to every single one of our residents, with every comma, decimal point that we, ultimately agree to. So, all right. I have two resolutions in front of us here, and I'd like to take them separately. So the first would be a motion to adopt Resolution 65-2023, certifying to the county auditor the final property tax levy for taxes payable in 2024. Do we need to list the levy percentage in the motion?
It's in the
The
resolution.
attorney? Or it's,
Yes, Madam Mayor, it's in that resolution.
okay, perfect. Would someone care to make that motion?
I'll make that motion, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember McDonald, and a second.
I'll second it.
Motion's been first and seconded. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes. And next, be looking for a motion to adopt Resolution 66-2023, approving the final 2024 budgets.
So moved, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Blackish, and a second.
Second.
Motion's been first and seconded. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion passes as well. We'll move on to new business, which is to consider adoption of the 2024 through 2026 strategic plan. City Manager.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm going to kick this one off, but then Deputy City Manager Yeager is going to walk through the bulk of the presentation here. When I was prepping the agenda this week, I heard a couple comments from staff and community members that looked at the agenda and said, this is a really boring agenda. I would argue that the agenda item that preceded us and this agenda item tonight are arguably the most important agenda items that we'll have all year because of their significance to the organization and what we do and the community.
What would have been exciting?
Sorry?
What would have been exciting? I'm just wondering.
Probably some random development or long weeds, chickens.
Oh, here we go.
Yeah.
It's not on the agenda. That'll be for another day.
Sorry, that was my fault for the distraction.
No. No, no, you're right. You look at these things, again, it's kind of like housework,
It
right?
is.
It needs to be done. But sometimes boring's okay.
Boring's good, and there's been so much work that's put into these actions, and the processes, has lasted months. So that's why we're so proud and confident of them, and excited to. Even though it might be a boring agenda, we're excited to talk about them tonight. So the adoption of the 2024-2026 strategic plan, as I mentioned before, started earlier this year. And I really do think, in addition to the budget, it is arguably the most important meeting that you have and the most important document that we have as an organization. Why, do you ask? Well, it outlines council priorities and provides clear direction on where the city is going and how to get there. As you all know, we get so many other things that come up throughout the year, some distractions, and this really helps to keep us on point. And then we can have discussions on whether we want to, go a different course. But we have that guide, that blueprint. It helps us focus efforts by being able to clarify when projects are pursued over others. That rationale, that context for moving forward with one action but not with another is super important, again, throughout the year when we have other things going on. And also just, I think it means a lot because it is a collaborative process. It isn't just the council, it isn't just myself and Deputy City Manager Yeager. It's the entire council, it's the leadership team, it's the city attorney, and we get all this information from our staff and the community. So it really is collaborative, and it's facilitated ultimately by a consultant, a facilitator. This year was Sarah Peterson, who really intentionally has no skin in the game, and she can give us her perspective. She can tell us when she thinks that's kind of a silly idea or not consistent with our mission, vision, and values, whatever. That is a really important part of this process. So Sarah led this process earlier this year. It culminated in August 14th through the 16th at the Pavilion, a 3-day session that was intense but fun. It was open to the public for all to share, and unfortunately, I don't think we had too much interaction from the public, but we do leave that open if they find it interesting. As mentioned before, City Council, senior leadership team, the facilitator, Sarah, and then our city attorney joined us as well. And overall, I think just to highlight or summarize the discussion in just a few words, it really focused on rebalancing focus of staff and the council and the community to ensure that all of our initiatives and direction are resident-centered, especially with operations, and that we excel in those, that we are striving for excellence, and also what we talked about tonight, our fiscal strength, and developing other resources to lessen the burden on property owners. So that's the background. That's kind of what the overall summary. And now Ms. Yeager is going to walk us through more of the details and a little bit more about the meat on the bone of the actual plan.
So thank you, Manager Dahl. So like he mentioned, our previous strategic plan that we've been operating under had 4 priorities: to maintain and enhance community amenities and infrastructure, to increase our operational effectiveness and manage thoughtful development. And many of those things had a lot of external focus. And what we heard during the strategic planning session is, let's prioritize our residents, let's take a step back and do what we're already doing well, and also prioritize diversifying our revenue. So that's what came forward into our 3 new strategic priorities, which is first, to diversify revenue; second, to achieve and sustain operational excellence; and third, to sustain community character and safety. And there's a fancy chart included in the packet that summarizes our strategic plan, but I wanted to take a moment to break it down into the 3 areas to kind of explain what they are. So the first is a strategic priority, and that's just simply a statement of what our priority is. Then we have a section of desired outcomes and targets, and this has some goals and some metrics, and that's simply how we will measure and how we'll know if we're making progress towards those priorities. And lastly, we have strategic initiatives listed. Those are the projects. That's what we will do to meet those goals. So under our first priority, to diversify revenue, obviously the goal there is to have new revenue sources to meet our existing needs, to minimize the impact on residents. That's some of what we already talked about earlier today with the budget process. And we have 8 different projects already identified that meet that. Some, I think, have bigger impacts than others. They include maximizing our liquor operations, increasing franchise fees, assessing our fine and fee structure, exploring a utility billing roundup feature, looking at our property leases, pursuing at the state level a food and beverage sales tax, and both bonding to find ways to bring resources into the community, and look at a paid docking system. So all of these are there's going to be a lot of work behind all of these, but we think, should we explore them and the council's supportive of them, all of those are going to go a long way in diversifying our revenue. The second priority has a lot in there, and I don't think I'm going to read all the projects because that would be a lot. But generally, again, let's focus on what we're doing now, but how we can do it even better to achieve operational excellence in terms of customer service, in terms of our engaged community and our communications, to managing risk, all things like that. So a couple of highlights are like implementing recruitment software where we're currently doing it manually now, expanding our portal to all of our residents, to complete and implement a seasonal maintenance calendar. All these things that are like, we're doing it, but how can we do it even better? And our third priority, to sustain community character and safety, has many goals associated with it. To focus on community character, building pride of place, community well-being and safety. Some of the highlights I'll pull out of that plan are looking at adopting a couple of, I think, important ordinances in the community related to vacation rentals, to special events, establishing a public art committee, as well as what will be a big undertaking in Wayzata Boulevard, implementing Clapbridge Park improvements, implementing future phases of Panaway. Like, all of these things are going to have a big impact in what it feels like to be in Wayzata. And then on the safety side of things, looking at a speed limit study and potentially cannabis operations as well. And lastly, on this same priority in community character and safety, is looking at having a thriving commercial core. I think a lot of the work that we'll do related to Wayzata Boulevard supports this, as well as having a full range of housing options. So there'll be some work done looking at adopting affordable housing policies and plans, and looking at redevelopment of the park and ride site. So there's a lot of stuff there. But ultimately, I think it gets distilled down back into what we kept coming back to in those strategic planning sessions on focusing on our residents, diversifying our revenue, and achieving operational excellence. This will not happen overnight. Again, this is a 3-year plan. So some things we're going to wait a couple years to even start on, some we're going to hit the ground running right away. But ultimately, I think this is a great roadmap for us to follow for the next 3 years and is already proving to be really helpful with staff, as there are lots of ideas and things we could do to say, whoa, 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 let's filter this idea. Does it meet these goals or not? Because then we need to be prioritizing this over those other things.
And this is all in addition to your daily responsibilities. I mean, we have members of the police department that have tasks on here. They still have to police and fire department and planning and zoning, and so it's a big ask. It's a lot. So when we say it's over the course of 3 years, it's because there's also daily work that has to be done. That doesn't go away.
Absolutely. Great point, Madam Mayor.
Please, go right ahead.
And Madam Mayor, I was just going to add, just kind of wrapping it up here, assuming it's adopted tonight, how do we move forward? Well, as Ms. Yeager mentioned, we have 3 years to move forward with this plan. It is a fluid document. Things will change. Priorities will change. Council members change. But that's why we'll check in at least 2 to 4 times a year and update the council on where we're at. If some things if we need to pivot at all. That's how we've done so in the past. Our intention is to provide updates a little bit more frequently than we have in the past. And in addition to tracking in that way, we're also going to make sure that we're transparent and getting the word out through social media and on our website. We have also talked about adding, in addition to our performance reviews, and tying the strategic plan into those, but also for the council and what the community sees in our memos to have, for each action item, how does this action item relate to our core initiatives? And if it doesn't, that might be okay, but at least it's acknowledged, and you can make that decision yourself if you want to go a different direction. So we plan on incorporating and tying into just our normal operations more than we have in the past too. So with that, I think we're both asking, if you have any feedback, any ultimate changes, knowing that there will be, updates in the future, but we're asking for your approval or adoption of this year's and all the way to 2026 strategic plan.
All right, thank you. Questions of staff? Now, it was 3 days. It wasn't 3 full days. It was 3 half days. But it was still arduous. It was
intense.
It does get intense, but so many great ideas. It was a wonderful process. It was nice to be off-site. I thought the location was good for us to be able to come together between staff and council, and I thought it was a great outcome. So, all right. Well, would someone care to make a motion to adopt the 2024 through 2026 strategic plan?
So moved, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Parkhill. Is there a second?
Second that.
Thank you very much. Further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? That motion passes, and that takes us to the city manager's report.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. 2 quick things. One is just, again, I want to reiterate your kudos to Ms. Yeager for the wonderful work she's done with the strategic plan and the budget. Also to Kathy Ovshak, our senior accountant in the office. She does a lot of the work behind the budget as well. And then in addition to that, just also want to say thanks to the community for coming out for Light Up the Lake. What a wonderful night. A little chilly, not horrible, but a little chilly. But the community really came out, and not only is it just a great evening because so many community members are out there, it's really a wonderful partnership of so many different organizations. In addition to the city, we have the Chamber, we have the Historic Society, we have the Lions helping. the Wayzata Crime Prevention Coalition, a bunch of other fire departments. I'm probably missing a bunch, but it was a great event. Our staff and their families come out and help out. The police department, just great event, and thanks to the community for coming out. Thanks to the mayor for doing a wonderful job making sure that the town lights up, because you never know, based on past electrical issues, whether the tree and all the other decorations are going to light or not. But you had the magic touch last week or whenever it was, 10 days ago, and you did a great job. So thank you.
Well, thank you. Yes, well, I had some great help.
Yeah, you did.
I did. I had 3 great helpers. They were the winners of the Winter Medallion. So I think it was their magic touch that was the key ingredient there. That and all the work from Public Works. We cannot forget.
And Liv. I totally forgot about Liv.
Yeah, I mean, that's just a given. I mean, Liv does everything
Miss Lasky.
for us. Yes.
Or Meredith.
Yes, I'm just gonna have to have her new name permanently emblazoned, in front of me. But no, it really was incredibly special. It was covered really nicely by our local media outlets, and had wonderful things to say. So I hope everybody who helped put it together really does take those words of thanks and those kinds of words to heart. So it was very meaningful to the community that came out.
Agreed. Thank
Yeah. And I really liked the Grinch, too. That was a great touch. Yeah. So, anything else?
That's it.
All right. Anything else from the council? Yes, Alex.
We talked about something I wanted to bring up here for the council and the community. Not really city-related, but it's something I've kind of felt compelled to talk about briefly is, for all of you here, I think you know, and people in the community probably not, but I had the privilege and opportunity of traveling to Israel last week as part of a very small delegation of only 10 people. And I do realize it's not a city topic, but it's an important topic, I think, for not only our community, but the world at this point. I was there for 5 full days and 6 nights. Frankly, not still quite recovered from this trip, both physically and emotionally. While I was there, I had the privilege of meeting with the top members of the cabinet, the Knesset, the IDF, members of the intelligence community, the very top levels. One day we went south to the border with Gaza. I saw the carnage that was there. We went to several kibbutzim as well, including one that probably took the brunt of the attack. We were shown that 47-minute video that they talk about. That's not something you can find online. It has to be kind of presented to you. And we went north to the border with Lebanon and saw across the valley, probably within sniper distance of the leading edges of Hezbollah as they were massing on the border with Israel. There was estimated that there were 80,000 troops there with 150,000 rockets and 5,000 guided missiles behind them. And we're sitting there on the border and we're looking at this. So I spent time with members of the IDF. I went to 2 different hospitals. They were still treating victims and soldiers. And what I would say is that this is a tragedy of massive scale, and I'd just like people to know that they should kind of take a look at that. I felt very emotionally affected by this. I don't think I'll ever forget it. So I came back and I thought I should at least comment on that in public. I won't say any more than that. What I'd say is that there's a lot that I could talk about, so if anybody wants to contact me privately for my views and my perceptions, please do. If you have any groups that you'd like to have addressed, I'd like to do that too. But the bottom line is that this is an international tragedy and it affects us all. So thanks for the time.
Yeah, thank you, Alex. Well, we're glad that you're home safely, and I think anytime, travels in general are such an impactful part to people's lives, and you learn so much, both of its people and of the land, cultures, and history. And I can't even imagine, given what that part of the world has been going through, how difficult it is. But we are glad that you were home, safe and sound. And, it's unfortunately become something that we are seeing and hearing almost on a daily basis, not just in that part of the world, but in so many other parts of the world. And I wish that all leaders, we are very blessed and fortunate in that we are in a safe and nurturing community that is not full of strife. And I wish for all leaders that they will look to each other and find peace, mutual respect of one another, and eventually find a way to come together that they can heal just these chasms that currently exist. So thank you for sharing your experience with us. Anything else from anyone else? No? All right. Well then, would someone care to make a motion to adjourn?
So moved, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, and a second.
Second?
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes. We are adjourned.